New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2016, 8 a.m. I'm starting my holiday call for the pediatric radiology portion of our practice. I'm at a children's hospital on my computer workstation, reading imaging studies on sick children from all over our community, just getting into the flow of things, settling into a reading groove, knowing what procedures I will be performing later that morning, when at 8:32 a.m., my phone rings. "This is Dr. Barr," I say. "Is this Dr. Lori Barr?" says the lady with a decidedly North Alabama accent. She sounded more like, "Is this Dr. Lori Barr?" "Yes, it is," I said, and my mind starts racing. See, my father had recently been an inpatient at the major hospital in their community, and I immediately thought something had happened to him. "I hate to be the bearer of bad news," she said. Now I'm really thinking the worst. But I really wasn't. What she said next took me completely by surprise.
Welcome to the Doctor's Mentor Show. If you believe that medicine is an industry and not a profession, if you enjoy submitting complex reimbursement claims, or you would do another residency just for fun, be advised, you're about to be offended. You should probably leave now.
All this talk about mentoring doctors is ridiculous. I thought doctors learned to do everything better than everyone else the first year of medical school. At least that's the way they act.
If you love assisting patients with vitality breakthroughs, if the right to practice medicine without interference is important, and you want expert tips for practice freedom and profits to support your epic life, welcome aboard and prepare to be blown away. The Doctor's Mentor Show starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Lori Barr.
This is the nurse practitioner in the hospital emergency room. I hate to tell you, but your parents have been in a motor vehicle accident. Now, we have your mom, and she's stable. Your dad, well, they life-flighted him directly from the accident scene to the nearest trauma hospital, and I don't know his condition, but here's the phone number to that emergency room. Now, I pray that you never experience what I felt at that moment, and I was so grateful that that nurse practitioner took the time to call me and to give me the phone number for that hospital where my father had been taken. Now, at that moment, though, when I got her call and when I hung up the phone, I was a total basket case of mixed emotions. As an only child, knowing that my parents were 74 miles apart from each other, and that I was 861 miles away from both of them and on call for a holiday weekend. What happened in the next 15 minutes was one of the most gratifying experiences I've ever had in my medical practice. I was fairly caught up on my reading list, so I had a moment to collect my thoughts, and I was able to call the ER at the trauma center and confirm that my father was still alive. I was so relieved when I reached my aunt and she agreed to be with my mom some way or somehow. And I was so grateful when a cousin agreed to drive the distance to be here for my father until I could figure things out. I mean, it was 75 miles for him to get there, and he willingly did it. No questions, just went. Next, I ended up calling one of my practice partners, and I told her what I had just learned. In a state of near shock and disbelief, I asked her after I'd told her, "Now what do I do?" And she said, "You get booked on the next flight to Nashville, and I go take a shower and cover for you as quickly as I can." Words even now really can't adequately capture the feelings of relief and love that washed over me when she gave me this unexpected gift. From that moment forward, I didn't have to worry one bit about making sure that my practice was covered. And the amazing thing with my practice is I could have called any one of my practice partners, and any one of them could call me, and the response would be similar. You see, in our practice, we each realize that life is sprinkled with unexpected experiences and that we are each human beings who have basic needs that must be met. We do our best to make sure each person in our practice has the ability to fulfill those needs, whether it's at a happy time like a wedding or a birth, or a sad time like getting a cancer diagnosis or even death. What I didn't realize as I boarded that plane to Nashville is just how much I would learn as I spent countless hours sitting in hospital rooms, waiting rooms, and rehab facilities outside of the scope of my own practice.
Today's topic:
love.
Love and gratitude. During this past year, while my parents have recovered from their accident, our whole family has had an amazing growth opportunity, and there are 4 major takeaways that I learned that I want to share with you today. First, make sure you spend the majority of your career in a practice that lets you live life fully. I love my medical practice. If you cannot find the kind of practice that lets you do that in your community, then either move or start building it for yourself. I'm so grateful for my practice partners and all of the employees at our company who made my life easier this past year while I assisted my parents in their recovery. Second, do not let someone you love endure a hospital experience alone. I've been telling my family and friends this for the past 20 years, and it is even more timely today. There simply is not immediate help available all the time, even in the best of hospitals. If you're alone and you need assistance to go to the toilet and the patient in the next room is suffering from something more acute, guess what? Without the assistance of a loved one or a paid private attendant, you might find yourself wetting your pants. So if at all possible, keep a person at the bedside around the clock as much as possible. Our family is positive that this was a lifesaver in a couple of instances where wrong medicine administration and wrong procedure near misses were avoided simply because a family member was there and not afraid to question the staff about what was about to happen. I'm so grateful that my family and our friends rallied to the aid of my parents during their extended recovery. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Third, BYOL. No, not liquor. Bring your own levity. As a pediatric radiologist, my practice world is filled with curious and often frightened children who are not usually responsible for the conditions that land them in the imaging department where we meet. It's filled with amazingly optimistic caregivers, imaging technologists, nurses, physician assistants, speech therapists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, doctors, and other staff members who want to see the children smiling and happy, and who know how to be playful in the face of adversity. Who knows? Maybe it's just that natural Texan I-can-do spirit that I encounter all around me here in Austin, and not the children's environment at all. All I know is, when I'm practicing in Austin, I'm surrounded by optimism that's infectious. And what I discovered being in the Southeast, and mainly in adult care environments, is that this particular kind of playful optimism that helps children to feel better fast is not encouraged. And that, to me, is a real shame, because no matter how old you are, it helps to smile and laugh when you are mending. I'm extremely grateful that my family and most of our friends are gifted storytellers who are pretty funny and who could at least elicit a smile from even the most serious of the adult caregivers. This makes it more fun for the care team to come and visit your room when you're a patient. If you don't perceive yourself as funny or a good storyteller, or maybe you just find yourself too sick or too tired to muster the energy to be entertaining, you can always revert to the tried and true method my father learned as a Coast Guardsman, where international protocol is of prime importance. Daddy would always make sure he knew 3 things about his caregivers, and I know this is what he learned learning international protocol in the Coast Guard. He would learn, number 1, how did he or she want to be addressed? Number 2, what is one unique characteristic about this person that you can get curious about? And number 3, what is one thing that they really enjoy? So once he knew those 3 things, even when my father was feeling really ill, he had a fallback conversation starter or continuer to allow the caregiver to talk a little bit about themselves. Remember, for most people, they themselves, that's their own favorite topic of conversation. So if you can get curious about the other person and ask them questions that you really would like to know more about the answer to, it's a great way to help the other person feel more comfortable around you. It lightens the moment. That is levity, even if it's not ha-ha funny. So bring your own levity. Last, provide spiritual support for people who are getting better. I'm so glad that I work in an environment that allows me to exercise my spiritual rights, and I'm so grateful that my parents were in recovery environments where spirituality was nurtured during the healing process. What I mean by that is none of us were discriminated against for wanting to ask God for His mercy, for His forgiveness, and for His assistance during this major growth opportunity. If a caregiver came in while we were praying, they'd respectfully join us. The care team members were excited to see how many people from the Lord's body sent cards and visited and brought food and other comfort items while my folks were recovering. One of the most touching moments for me personally was when my practice partners took time out to pray for my family. And even those who didn't believe in God, they still sent good intentions for our family. It means so much. So there you have 4 major takeaways that a surprise on holiday call taught this physician about gratitude. Number 1, spend your career in a practice that lets you live life fully. Number 2, if you or a family member needs to be an inpatient for medical care, don't let them go it alone if at all possible. Number 3, BYOL, bring your own levity to the hospital. Every hospital can use a few more smiles and laughs. Number 4, be supportive of a person's spiritual side. Hey, I am so grateful that you've stuck with me this year, even when my episode publication schedule became more episodic. Now you know the reason behind that. I am happy to report that my parents are both much better than they were this time last year, and the rest of us have grown exponentially. We are better human beings for the experience. I want to give a special shout out to my audio producer, Christopher Wright. He's the best. There were so many times this past year when I almost stopped producing shows. It really has been a year of stretching into new possibilities. And as you know, growing and stretching can be painful sometimes. Christopher is an amazing encourager. So even though I've published fewer episodes this year, I'm extremely grateful that Christopher encouraged me to keep going with the Doctor's Mentor show and a few other projects that will be coming to fruition in the future. So thank you, Christopher, and thank you as listeners. I really appreciate you.
Your next step.
As you go forward into the coming year, look back and be grateful for those growth opportunities you have experienced. You are more of who you are designed to be now that you have weathered those storms. Out of all the 4 steps, the last 2 are the most important. I would love to feature your stories of growth, spirituality, and levity in your practice setting, whether you were on the giving end of the medical care or the receiving end. Leave me a message at thedoctorsmentor.com so I can feature your story on this show.
There's more to explore at thedoctorsmentor.com.
Check out the show notes for this episode for a few more tools and implementation guides that may assist you in the coming year, no matter what growth opportunities come your way. I'm Dr. Lori Barr, the Doctor's Mentor. Remember, one idea is all it takes to change your world.
Are you stopping at a hospital? Hello? Don't you know that hospitals are one of the sickest places on the planet? Don't touch anything in there and get out as fast as you can.